Hello, welcome back, friends, to episode 46 on the Unshakable Soul podcast. I have with me Mariana from Brazily Fitness. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Sophia. I'm so excited to be here.
I'm excited to have this conversation with you. Oof, this is going to be juicy. We're going to be speaking about dance. We're going to be speaking about what Brazilian fitness is, offering you a space to share your passion, your craft, and your gift to the world. And we're going to be looking also at how dance can be used as a tool for self-expression and personal growth.
Yes, I love it. I love talking about all those things.
So let's dive in. And first, I'd love for you to share with the audience a little bit about your journey into dance. I know this could be opening up a huge chat, but yeah, if you could summarize your journey with dance and where it's taken
Yeah.
you, that'd be great.
Yeah, so I guess I should start off by saying that I don't have any like formal dance training. I didn't grow up dancing as a kid. I was a very shy, awkward kid. I didn't like sports and like I just even like in gym class, I was the last one chosen for sports teams and things like that. But my parents are Brazilian, so I was born and raised here in Ottawa, Canada. But when I was 14, my dad got a job in São Paulo, Brazil, so we all had to move there. And you can imagine, as a super shy 14-year-old, I wasn't thrilled about it. I didn't speak Portuguese at the time. I had to adapt to a new culture, leave behind my friends and things like that. So it was quite a change. But like I struggled like to find myself there. But eventually I was introduced to Brazilian dance, but more like dance fitness. And it really what helped me to break out of my shell and just build my confidence over time. So that's how everything started. It was through dance fitness in Brazil.
Oh, beautiful. Beautiful. And so you're mentioning this kind of like going from a teenage girl that's in a shell to coming out of your shell. Can you share with us a bit more of what that process actually felt like?
Oh, hard. It's not. It's funny, right? Because like when we look back at it, like, oh yeah, I just broke out of my shell and things were great. But no, it was a journey, like full of doubts and fears. And I think that sometimes like we shy away from those experiences, but those are the opportunities where we grow the most, right? And like I'm kind of like glazing through things, but like adapting to a new culture where they're very much, it's hot all year long, so they're very much about their appearances and things like that, right? Much more than here in Canada. And I was a little overweight at the time, so when I moved there, I went through an eating disorder. Like there were a bunch of things, right, that happened, and getting into dance like helped me to have a healthier body image as well,
Mhm.
and not, starve myself in the process. So it was definitely a journey full of ups and downs. And I would say that, it's still part of my life, right? There's still moments where, like I'm right now, I have a business that I have like working on my dream. And every day, I'm like, like what direction should I take? And, and that's just life, right? You have to be able to go through the ups and downs. And I think that dance really teaches you that, right? Because you start as a beginner and then you're reminded that you can do hard things, right? Like as soon as you allow yourself to be a beginner and experience that flow, I think magic happens.
Yeah. Yeah, there's so many golden nuggets right there. Just going through the can I say mm, a lot of growing pain for a lot of women in their teenage years of like
Yeah.
that body image, that image of beauty, right?
Yes.
Of like what
Hmm.
it should look like. Should I hate saying this, but this is
Hmm.
literally what we're being fed by the media,
Yep.
by society, by different
Hmm.
cultures and different cultures, right?
Hmm.
So you, as you were, as you mentioned, coming shy girl growing up in Canada, going to Brazil and noticing, oh my gosh, everybody's walking around with their butts. I don't know. I've never been, but it's just different. It's very different.
Yes.
So having that opening and awareness of wow, what you've been actually caging in.
Yeah.
and also what's possible for you. Like, well, maybe I'm not going to be a string bikini woman, but I have the right to feel good in my body.
Yes, and actually over time what I realized was, well, the first thing I noticed is what was like, wow, they wear tiny bikinis here, right? Like very, very small bikinis. And at first I just focus on that. So it's crazy how things are about perspective, right? So I was like, oh my God, I can't wear those bikinis. But over time, as like my mindset started to open up and everything, I started to realize that yes, they were tiny bikinis, but you saw everyone wearing them, no matter what body shape or size, no matter their age, and they just rock that bikini no matter what. Like it's just like the confidence that comes from within. Like I'm gonna rock my bikini and I don't care what anyone else thinks. And that was something that I realized over time. I was like, oh, like I don't have to have a perfect body here to wear a bikini, you know? And that was crazy. Like that was very like that was a total shift in thinking.
Yeah. Yeah,
Hmm.
that's huge. It's huge when you're like, wait a second, I don't have to fit into a mold.
Yeah.
And I think that comes back to like that you were mentioning inner confidence. Like, and I think that's related really to how comfortable I am and how safe am I in my own body.
Yes, exactly.
Right. And that's where I see dance and yoga like meshing together so well. It's like yoga's,
Mhm.
I see it a lot of like this inner journey of like connecting, grounding, safety, having my space to feel safe
Yeah.
here, to feel my own body. And then that dance, for me, anyways, is just this next level of like, let's express and actually be seen.
Yes.
Like, first see myself in the mirror,
Yeah.
dance, express,
Mhm.
ignite that fire within, and then like dance with others,
Yeah.
and then dance with somebody else.
Exchanging
It's
that
just
energy, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
feeding off our energy. So,
Mhm.
what have you seen? I'm so curious to know from your perspective, because you've brought now kind of this transformation you received and you've went through in Brazil to create and birth your passion baby, basically Brazilian fitness
Yeah.
in Canada.
Mhm.
What did you notice in that process? Like, did you see an opportunity in Canada?
Yeah, so I guess let's rewind a little bit, but like after that experience, like I lived in Brazil for 3 years, so I finished high school in Brazil. And then I came back to Canada. I was like, you know what? Like, I want to have this kind of impact on people's lives. So it propelled me into the fitness industry. So I've been a personal trainer, group fitness instructor for about 20 years now. And back then, like I was still very shy, right? And I don't know if you've heard of the program called Body Combat, which is like a
Mm.
kickboxing class. So that was the first program that I got certified in. And I was 18, very young, and still super shy. And I remember my manager at the time, my team leader, we had to, get assessed and things like that. And she told me, like, I just don't think this is for you because, like, you had to be like intense as an instructor, right? And I was just like, okay, now we're gonna punch, you know? And you know what? And when she told me that, I was like, you know what? Like, I can do this. And I realized that I know I'm shy, but when I'm teaching people, they don't know I'm shy. So
Mhm.
I can be anyone I want. So I started to create this persona for myself when I was on stage teaching group fitness.
Mm.
And that started to kind of mesh into my real life. I'm still pretty introverted, but when I'm teaching, I'm like instructor Mariana, you know? And so that again isn't something that happened overnight, right? Like I had to like build that confidence class after class, listening to feedback from people and things like that. And then when I was 25, and also I started teaching Zumba back then, and I remember I would throw in Brazilian songs. And at first I'd be like, you know what? I don't know if people are gonna like this. They've never heard it before. And then I started to realize that they were always my most requested songs. Like people didn't realize they were Brazilian necessarily, but they'd come and show me the choreography and I know like which song they were asking for. So I was like, okay, like, they love it. They just have to be exposed to it, right? And then when I was 25, I missed Brazil, like, and I just couldn't stand the cold anymore. So I ended up going back to Brazil by myself this time with a completely different mindset because it was my choice, right? And so I dove deeper into learning the language and the culture. And I actually met my husband taking his dance class in Brazil. So that's how we
Mm.
connected. And then I brought him to live in the cold about 6.5 years ago. And everything started with like, you know what? Like, there are way more Brazilians living here in Canada and, across the world. I'm sure like they miss their music, but not only that, like Canadians are going to love it, Americans are going to love it, and everyone's going to love it. Right. And so that's how everything happened. And it, like I said, happened over like 20 years. So definitely a journey.
Yeah, that's huge. That's huge. And it's a beautiful journey because there was this like coming back to the
Hmm.
land and really immersing yourself in it, kind of embodying that Brazilian fitness. Like you were birthing already, probably
Hmm.
back then, what you have now,
Yep.
and feeling it
Yep.
and experiencing it for yourself. And that, of course, helps when you're
Yeah.
opening it up to a new
Yeah.
audience.
And I think like I always tell my husband, I'm like, like why hasn't anyone else done this? It's so awesome. People love it. But I truly believe that it was meant to be me. Like it has to be me because of everything I experienced. And I'm not like, most Brazilians who are born and they dance samba in their diapers. Like
Yeah.
it's so natural for them. It was a struggle for me. Like I remember going to classes and being like, what is this move? And I'd go home and practice in front of the mirror and I'd be like excited to try it again at the next class, right? So I think that that makes me, people can relate to that, right? When they come to the class and they don't have like those natural, like Brazilian roots or like that natural rhythm, and they
Mhm.
realize like all it takes is some practice, all it takes is time, and all it takes is you believing in yourself, right? So I think that there's a reason why I went through all of that ups and downs along the way, because like people are going to relate to that, right? And they're going to realize anyone can do it.
I'm gonna pause there because just for the listeners to kind of feel into what you just mentioned, of it takes time to
Hmm.
develop mastery and to build the confidence. But
Hmm.
that confidence, and I'm saying that because I'm experiencing that, right? I've experienced that. This is what I teach.
Hmm.
It's you have to have the courage to take the step.
Yep.
And that step is not going to feel comfortable. That's when you know you're on your edge,
Yep.
right? When you're like, oh,
Exactly.
but you lean into the excitement of the possibility of what is going to be the outcome of that woman on the other side.
Exactly.
Right? So you're like, oh shit. And it's a
Hmm.
process though. So how can you hold yourself
Hmm.
through that process and know and just trust the process and
Hmm.
being guided from this space within you that's just a full body yes. I call it a
Hmm.
full body yes. So like this feels good.
Yeah.
It may not make sense, but it feels
Hmm.
good. So maybe your decision to go back maybe didn't make sense, but it
Hmm.
just made sense here.
Yes, it did. And I remember my parents weren't happy about it. Like my mom was terrified that I was living in Rio by myself. But yeah, definitely everything happens for a reason. Like, I don't believe in coincidences. Like there's a reason I had to go back, meet my husband
Hmm.
and all of that. So I think that yeah, definitely divine magic happening there.
Yeah. So I want to hone in on two keywords now. How do you see dance as a gateway for self-expression and self-love?
Mhm. I think that it's just the joy that you experience if you allow yourself to experience it. Like, I'll give you an example just recent. Last night, I taught a class, and there's a lady who has been taking the class for, I'd say, a couple of months now. And in the beginning, she was so like shy, and you could tell that she wasn't as comfortable, right? But just yesterday, like, I could see like this different aura around her because she's just letting herself feel the music and have like experience it, right? And she's like, well, you should teach it more than once a week because this is the highlight of my week and it's so like energizing, right? And like just watching that unfold is magic, right? But it's like you said, right? Like the first thing has to be the courage for you to take that step and experience that like awkwardness and being like, you know what? I don't have to be a pro. And that's one of the things that I noticed in Brazil the first time was, when you sometimes you watch a movie and there's a one scene where all the characters get up and they all know the choreography and you think like, okay, that doesn't happen in real life. Well, that happens in Brazil at parties and things like that, just social gatherings. There are certain songs where everyone knows the choreography and they just dance for the joy of it, not because they're professional dancers, but just because they feel united through the dance, right? And they feel like a
Mm,
sense of belonging.
mm,
And that's what I'm trying to create. Not like, oh, you have to be a professional dancer. Oh, you have to, dance a certain way. No, like I want you to use dance as a tool for you to feel confident and feel yourself and feel like you belong to something bigger than just you, right? And that's, I think, what's so beautiful about like Brazilian music and the culture. And that's why I'm so passionate about this specifically. It's not just because the dance is fun, it's how it unites people and reminds people that dance is just joy. Like it doesn't, you don't need to be perfect, right? You just have to allow it to be part of your life and watch the magic unfold.
mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, because very often it's like this performance. Like we're so
Yeah.
used to needing to like perform in
Hmm.
everything in life, right? Oh my gosh, like I need that 5 stars. I need
Yep.
this to get this to get this, make sure like I do everything well. It's like, why? Why?
Yeah.
Why? Like you're performing for yourself right now, like when you're creating those environments. And I love how you mentioned it's uniting us. So that's why yoga is dance. Like this was my biggest in the last
Yeah.
year. I was like, yoga is dance
Hmm.
because what is yoga? It's to unite, to take
Hmm.
back the pieces of yourself to unite. And not only yourself, but you notice, oh my gosh, you're enjoying this too?
Yeah.
Like this is lighting you up. Like we're all being lit up. And
Hmm.
this common thread is this joy and love that we experience when we're together.
Hmm.
And I see this the music being very conducive,
Yeah.
sound to kind of bring into your body and permeate every cell to access this joy and this love and this light.
Hmm. Yeah.
And that's why a lot of festivals are
Hmm.
just kind of amping up that energy of like, whoa, like
Hmm.
we're all like, oh, connected, united.
Yes.
That's
Yes.
beautiful.
Hmm.
Um, in terms of the piece on self-love, that one's like
Hmm.
more of a sensitive piece.
Yeah. So I think that it really comes with you accepting yourself, right? Like through the ups and downs. And it has to be a daily practice, right? I find that for me personally, like I never feel more connected to me and loving myself than like when I'm dancing. And it could be dancing, teaching a class or dancing on my own when I do that a lot, right? When I put together choreography, but it's my time for me. Like, even though it is my job, it's also like, it's what lights me up, right? And I think that it's important to find that thing that makes you feel like most yourself, right? Like, where you feel like you're truly in your essence. And dance can be that thing for you, right? Like, if you allow it to be. For me, it is, like, no question. But it dance is so powerful in so many different ways. Like, I don't know if you saw that there was a study that came out last year that showed that dance is the number one way to fight depression. Like, it beats out all different types of activity. Like, I don't know about you, but I wasn't shocked with that, like that data. But like, it's good that we have that to show people that it goes deeper than just, like a fun way to burn calories. No, like it helps you transform the way you think and how you
Mhm.
express yourself and, even boundaries you set because you start to like just like love yourself more, right? And so when you start to like realize like, what, I deserve more, then you start to set the appropriate boundaries and you accept the right people into your life and say bye to the people that shouldn't be there, right? And I think that self-love is that really, right? When you love yourself enough to
Mm.
realize that you're worth it, right?
Yeah. And it all builds on each other, right? It's like the self, like the safety first. Like, am I
Hmm.
comfortable in my body to move this way? Or even like
Yeah.
allow myself to experience this for the first time.
Yeah.
Am I allowing myself to feel this emotion come up when I'm on that growth edge and I'm like, oh my gosh, the
Hmm.
resistance, right? Move through it. Then am I also like, do I have that self-esteem
Hmm.
to put the boundaries to be like, wait a second, no. Or to
Hmm.
say yes.
Yep.
And that's when you're like, whoa. So it's a whole journey, and dance brings you to that journey.
Yes,
Yeah,
totally.
yeah, yeah. Let's dance more. Um, so what is, how do I want to phrase this? Coming back to you establishing Brazilian fitness, I want you to speak to that too, to let people know, especially the listeners
Mhm.
in Ottawa, that you exist.
Mhm.
The pattern that you've seen in society and the missing element that you're seeing the most in how people relate to each other, how people relate to themselves. Where did you see Brazilian fitness being like the solution?
Well, I think it kind of goes back to that, uniting people. So I
Mhm.
think that that's very big, especially since the pandemic, right? Like we've gotten more used to just kind of isolating. And I think that that's leading down a very dangerous path. And we're social creatures, right? We need to be around people. So that's one way, right? How we do that. But another way is just like how the music just and like the vibe brings joy to your life. Like even if you are doing it on your own, like that's a very big way. But also the like the thing that's most important to me is the confidence building, right? And building that courage because I truly believe that each and every one of us was put on the planet with some sort of purpose that we're meant to fulfill. And I think that when we're not living that purpose or we're in that process of discovering what that purpose is, that's when we start to have some mental health issues pop up, right? So you could have, like the best job that, everyone out around you thinks is the best job, a perfect family. But if you're not living your purpose, you're not going to be happy.
Yeah.
But the thing is, to live out your purpose, it takes scary action, right? And sometimes we don't have that courage to take the first step, right? So the way that our class is structured is it's purposely made to take you out of your comfort zone and grow. So you took the class with us, right? You'll
Yeah. Oh
probably
yeah.
remember
My
that
booty
some
was
of the
shaking in weird directions.
yeah, so even like that hip motion is like it's so like important to release negative energy right when you're moving your hips. But not only that, like the way that it's structured, some of the songs, like the choreography is a little bit easier to follow, but some of the choreography is challenging. And it's like that on purpose, right? For you to remember, like, you don't have to get it today. You don't even have to get it tomorrow or next week. You just have to allow yourself to be okay with that and
Yeah.
figure it out and keep coming back and trying again next time and come back, right? And so that is the secret because that's the secret for you to do anything that's worthwhile in life is
Yeah.
you have to be okay with taking the first step without knowing where the landing is going to be. And that's the secret with dance. Like that's how it reminds you like I don't have to have all the answers. I'm going to find my way along the way as long as I allow myself to, right? And I'm in a supportive environment where I see other people doing the same thing and like, other people around me they're also not pro dancers, but they're still having fun. Why can't I have fun too? Right? Why
Yeah.
can't I enjoy the journey? So that's my biggest thing is like reminding people that they're so much more capable than they even imagine, but they have to take that first step and they have to keep going because the best way to boost confidence is to make promises to yourself and keep promises to yourself. So when you say you're going to commit to a new dance class that's uncomfortable and you keep going, you start to realize like, you know what? I can do anything,
Yeah.
right? And that's what I want like our program to be a
Yeah.
tool for confidence and courage across the
Mm.
globe.
Yeah, and ultimately believing in oneself. Like, yeah,
Yep.
I can do anything when I put
Mhm.
in like the practice and I
Yeah.
show up for myself. I'm not showing up for the teacher,
Yeah.
neither for anybody else. Like, I'm literally showing up for myself and actually showing myself that, wow, it's not that
And
bad. Like, it's not scary.
what greater act of self-love is
Yeah,
there than that,
exactly, exactly.
right?
So it's all tying back to that. It's like, wow,
Yeah.
do you believe in your own potential?
Yes.
Right? And kind of breaking. I'm all about like this year's I have this word breakthrough. Like it's
Hmm.
just like breakthrough? Like, what are the limitations
Yeah.
that you've boxed yourself in, or that you've
Yeah.
agreed on the societal norms or your parents or whatever that think that you should be this and do this?
Hmm.
Right? So how can we go like poof in the mind and also poof in the body? Because it's
Yeah.
stored everywhere, right? And dance is such a beautiful gateway to reconnect with that innate wisdom, that deeper knowing that's like, this is for you. And it
Yeah.
might not be dance. You might not become a dance teacher,
Hmm.
but through dance, you can access, as you're mentioning, that deeper purpose of like, whoa,
Yeah.
right? That courage and confidence you need to take that step that's aligned. Because I think that's
Yeah.
also the piece of like, well, what path are you following?
Yeah. Exactly.
Right. And I love it when you were just mentioning how your sessions are structured, because yeah, I experienced one of the dances and it definitely it's a workout for sure. And if you're in for the workout, that's great.
Hmm.
But for me, it was really this laughing it off when I
Hmm.
don't get it, the choreography.
Yeah.
And you could see the people that are like annoyed by the
Yeah.
fact that like they don't have the right step or whatever.
Yeah.
That's also part of the journey. And then moving in ways that like I never felt my booty move that way, but it felt
Yeah.
good. It was like releasing.
Yeah.
It's like, what
Yeah.
more is there?
You got to be okay with the booty shake.
You gotta be. And it's beautiful because it brings up a lot of like these blockages. This like, no, like this is not appropriate,
Hmm.
right? So it's if you're
But
allowing
says
yourself in this
who,
word.
right? Who told you that? Right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's a journey. So if you're listening to this and you feel like, oh my gosh, like kind of feel scared, like what the hell is she talking about? We're gonna link also, of course, your website and maybe a video of what all of what we're talking about, what a flow looks like and a session
Hmm.
looks like. But it's like if anything in you is being like, ooh, interesting, like follow that. I'm
Hmm.
curious to learn more, follow that little
Hmm.
nudge.
Yes. I
So
love
I
it.
I want you to speak of Brazily Fitness. We've spoken a lot about dance. Tell us, what is the baby that you've birthed?
Yeah, so Brazily Fitness is our umbrella brand, right?
Mhm.
Because we do have other programs we want to launch down the road that are also based on the Brazilian approach to fitness and lifestyle.
Mhm.
But our first one, like our baby, is our Brazily Dance program. So that's the one we've been touching on today. And we talked about how, the main goal is really to boost confidence and have people believing in themselves and building that resilience. Because I think that over the years with technology, people have become like they're just too reliant on technology, right? We're used to snapping our fingers and, using an app to get food delivered and things like that. So that instant gratification it's damaging, right? Because worthwhile things in life, like we just talked about, take time and you have to be okay with that and live the journey. So I want to bring that back to people that, like, as advanced as technology gets, you're still going to have to put in the work. You're still going to have to like face the fear and do it anyway, right? And you're still going to have to find the support system. So that is the whole mission. And with that, like, obviously, I understand that I can't do this alone, right? I want this to be across the world. So our main goal is to certify instructors so that they can join our mission and spread it. So that's the main goal right now. We do teach classes here in Ottawa, but we also have a university club at Ottawa U. So we're getting instructors certified on campus. And yeah, we're going to be doing that for as long as it takes to get the message out.
Mm, I love it. I love it. And I love that you mentioned Brazilian Fitness as the umbrella. So there's like different, I think there's Brazilian Sculpt, Brazilian Dance.
Yes. Oh, you did your homework. Yes.
Yeah, yeah, there's different things going on. And you have an app too.
Yeah, so we just launched, it's an online platform. So right now it's just a web app because we're still trying to figure out like the tech behind the app. But yeah, we just launched the like web app last month. So actually no, at the beginning of this month, we're still in January. Tomorrow's February. Yeah, so it's brand new so people can experience it from home. So we realize that sometimes because does take that, bit of courage to take that first step and take your first class. If you can do it from home, that's a little bit less fear that you need to face, right? And it's step-by-step tutorials for all the choreography. But not only that, we're building a community where everyone, comes together and shares their struggles and, learns from each other and grows together. So that just launched, and yeah, that's what we're doing.
Perfect. I love
Mhm.
it. So, what would be your advice for somebody that's listening, they're interested, they're in Ottawa, or maybe they're not in Ottawa?
Mhm.
What would you advise in that taking, and maybe they're feeling a bit of like, "Mm."
Yeah, well, I would say just do it. Like you can do it. And one thing I saw something on social media, I think, about how babies are born with rhythm. Like if you see, like I have a daughter, she's 4, right? She's been dancing since she was like in my belly. But she just has this natural rhythm. So we're born with rhythm. And over the years, like we put these blocks on ourselves that say like I can't dance or I have 2 left feet. And that's really just your mind telling you garbage, right? So just let yourself experience the music. It doesn't have to be Brazilian dance. Maybe that doesn't call to you, but maybe something else has been calling to you. Like just listen to the music and see what your body does, like how it reacts. So when people come to my classes, I send them a playlist of our like the music we use in our classes, and I tell them like listen to it, when you're getting up in the morning to brush your teeth, like see how that like sets the tone for your day. Like if you just allow yourself to have like a private dance party
Yeah.
when you're getting ready for your day, or like listening to it in the car, because automatically your body starts to understand what to do, but you have to let it, right? So that's the thing. So I would say like listen to more music, see how it talks to you. So or and then when you start to feel, like a little bit more courage, like look for a class nearby. Like it can be our class or it can be our online platform. If you really want to try Brazilian dance and you're far away, you can do that or find another local class. Like just let dance enter your life, and you're going to see that it's the most incredible thing.
Mm, mm. I love it. And sprinkle some dance here and there,
Yes.
brushing your teeth, cooking.
Yeah,
Yeah, just
that's all
like
it takes, really.
it really, and I love it that you mentioned like there's baby steps. Like maybe it's not going to be the big step of like going in person to a class if you're in Ottawa.
Hmm.
It's like, well, how can I again start getting comfortable with these types of movements, like just moving my body?
Yep.
Because I work with a lot of women. I work mostly with women. It's
Hmm.
just this disconnect. We're just constantly up here
Yep.
for a lot of us in this part of the world. So it's like, whoa.
Yeah. And anytime we're trying to do something new, we will encounter, you will encounter resistance from the brain, right? Your brain will tell you like this is uncomfortable because your brain's job is to keep you safe,
Mhm.
right? And safety to your brain just means everything you've already done up until this point. It doesn't mean that it's necessarily good for you,
Yeah.
right? So it just wants to keep you in that box, right? But you have to think like, are you comfortable in that box, really? Like, are you happy in that box? And if the answer is no, like I could be happier, then you have to be willing to step out of it, right? And that will require courage, and you will have to like, and that's why when in the class I tell them like, look, I'm going to go step by step for this new track because it's a little bit more complex. It's not because I want you to get it down, but I just want to fight that resistance you're going to get from your brain. It would be like, okay, I kind of know what's coming, right? So you
Mm.
have to be able to talk back to that resistance and be like, I'm going to do it anyway. I know it's hard. I know it's new. I'm going to do it. Right. So just expect that resistance. That just means you're human. It doesn't mean anything's wrong with you at all.
100%. Yeah, I just recently had an experience of feeling the embodied feeling of resistance, of like, I like to call it being on your growth edge or in the threshold, when everything you knew, because we've been boxed in like this, starts, there's the breakthrough that's happening, and your body's like,
Mhm.
this doesn't feel safe. And it's just like allowing yourself to breathe through it and be like, oh, like I'm
Mhm.
good here. Whew.
Yeah.
And then when you come back to this like centered space, it's like, what is the next step? Like, what am I being called to take? What is that? And again, I want to emphasize it doesn't need to be the huge leap. Some people are called to take the huge
Yeah.
leap, right? A huge leap would
Hmm.
be like maybe leaping to another country and living there, like moving.
Hmm.
The next step could be like, let me go to this class. Right?
Hmm.
Can I allow myself? I love that word. Can I allow myself to just
Hmm.
expand a little bit beyond what I'm comfortable and what I know?
Yeah, exactly.
So
Yeah,
it's all
because to
good.
get to the big leap, you have to have those little leaps along the way, right?
They help. Again, it depends on the person. I think there's some people are like, I'm ready. Like I'll
Hmm.
just take the leap and be like, okay. Some people it's like usually it's like usually it's like it's a process and it builds, but
Mhm.
that first step is the one that matters the most.
Yeah, exactly. And like for me, I know that I wouldn't be here talking to you about a business that I started like 3 years ago with no money, no resources or anything if I hadn't started dancing. Right. I know for a fact. So, like, people look at me like, wow, you're so brave. Like, yeah, but it started with me like taking little steps, little steps. And, from the outside looking in, people think, like, wow, like, how do you do it so easily? Like, I'm not saying it's easy, but I believe in myself enough to do it, right? And yeah,
Highlight.
yeah.
Highlight that
Mm-hmm.
for sure. Because let's remember, listeners, remember that Mariana had mentioned she's more of an introvert. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
we all have this extrovert introvert side, but some people are more
Mm-hmm.
introvert. And that young, she was in her shell.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not because a lot of the times we label ourselves things like, oh, I'm this, I'm that, I'm ADHD,
Yeah.
I'm blah, blah, blah. Like that ADHD
Mm-hmm.
is the one I hear the most now. And I'm like, oh.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's like, are you boxing yourself in? So watching
Yeah.
the words that you say about yourself. And
Mm-hmm.
you chose back then
Mm-hmm.
to no, like there is also a Mariana that is
Mm-hmm.
meant to serve in this way,
Yeah.
right? And she's gonna have to learn how to get out of her shell. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
her shell's there to kind of retreat. She likes her
Yeah.
shell, but she
Mm-hmm.
also knows when it's time to step out.
Yeah, it's really funny because, like I told you when I started teaching, I was young, right? Like 18,
Mhm.
19. So at the time, I would go clubbing and things like that. And people would recognize me because I taught downtown and I used to teach all across Ottawa. So people would recognize me from my classes and they would expect me to be like the life of the party at the clubs. And I wasn't, right? Because I wasn't just like my natural state, right? Like I would just like dance in my corner by myself, right? But they were used to me being like, you know?
Yeah,
And yeah, so it was like very funny to see that. Like because I noticed like I learned that what kind of categorizes you as introverted or extrovert is how you recharge your batteries. And I recharge my batteries when I'm alone, like when I have my me time, right? I love being around people, but it gets to a point where it's like, okay, I need my me time. And I'm okay with having my me time. I think before I used to think like, oh, there's a problem with that. It's like, no, like I just need to be alone sometimes because I'm always serving, right? I'm always around people. I'm always like sharing my energy. Sometimes I need that time to connect back to myself.
100%. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I love it. I feel as though we can continue going and going, and there'll probably be a V2 of this.
Yeah.
But for the time being, I'd like to bring this to a close because we've shared a lot. There's a lot of golden nuggets people can chew on, digest, and I just would offer for you to share any last minute words that you want to share.
Yeah, I would just say, just dance in some way. Or if it's not dance, like find some sort of tool where you can take daily action to just remind yourself of your potential and that you're meant for big things and big, like whatever that means to you, right? Like maybe you have something in your heart that's been calling you and you've just been like, no, like I can't do that. Like answer that call. Because that's what happened to me. Like I sat on the Brazili Fitness like idea for I think like 4 years before I actually took the step. I was like, it's now or never, And I heard it. I was like, God, like, I know you want me to do this, but how? With what money? With what resources? Like, even the name Brazilian Fitness, everything came to me, but it was just scary, right? And sometimes, like, we just hold ourselves back. And now that I'm actually living through it, and like, there's so much that we still need to do, but I
Yeah.
wake up excited that like this is what I meant to do. Like, and it's just like complete knowing that this is like what I was put on the planet to do. And I think that that is powerful, right? If you just allow yourself to follow your purpose. So find that
Mhm.
tool that will get you closer to your purpose. And I hope that dance could be that for you.
Mhm. Yeah. And a lot of the times it's literally taking the space to have the introspection, to go out in nature, to go out to a dance class, just to get out of the regular routine,
Yeah.
right? Because it becomes automatic pilot for a lot of
Hmm.
us if we don't
Yeah.
consciously say, whoa,
Hmm.
time out, right?
Yeah.
So I love it when you said like it just lights me up. It
Hmm.
just like I get excited each day. It's like, well, maybe start with asking yourself, what gets me out of bed each morning,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah, and
It's
I know you talk to mostly like your audience is mostly women. So if there
Mhm.
are other moms out there too, I know how hard it can be as a mom, right? To because you're the mental load is crazy, right? You're thinking about every detail, organizing everything in your household and work sometimes and like your kids, like activities and all of that stuff. But I think that it's so important to remember that your kids are, they're going to follow your example, right? So, and if you're at your best version, you're just going to be able to give more to them, right? So, I think that sometimes as moms, we have this feeling like, oh, I'm being selfish when I take this 1 hour a week to dance, No, like you're going to be a better mom, you're going to be a better human being, you're going to love yourself more, and your kids are going to feel that. Everyone around you is going to feel that. So, just like try to get that out of your mindset. Like even I struggle with it sometimes. But you just have to remember that like they need you to be at your best, right? And you owe it to yourself too.
Yeah, and I'd add to that and be like, invite them in.
Yeah,
Like
exactly.
they're probably gonna want to do a dance party more than you,
Yeah,
maybe. So it's like
yeah,
invite them in. I've noticed with moms that I work with, it's like their best accountability buddy are their daughters and sons.
yeah,
Like, mom, go to the dance, go to yoga. Yes, yes. And they're
yeah,
surprised. So
yeah.
it's like, no, like you have support. So again, it's as you mentioned, it's
It's
like
like
there's a
your
belief
mind.
you
Yeah,
have. Yeah,
yeah,
that's like, oh, I feel like I'm a bad mom if I take time for myself doing dance or whatever.
yeah.
So
No, no,
breathe
no.
through it, ladies. Go to
Yes.
the dance.
Yes. That's the ultimate lesson. Go dance.
Amazing. So where can people find you? Online and in person?
Yeah, so in person, we teach in Barhaven in downtown. So if you go on our social media, so on Instagram, TikTok, we're not very active, but on Facebook, it's Brazily Fitness. So Brazil with a Y at the end, fitness all together. You can also visit our website, brazilyfitness.com. You can, if you want to become an instructor, you can find more information on the website. But if you just want to find out classes, you can reach out to us on social media and we can give you all the information. On our website, usually we update with different events that we do as well. Sometimes we go to Toronto and Montreal and elsewhere to teach, so you can always kind of stay in touch. And yeah, and hope to see you there soon.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll link everything in the description so that they can get in touch with you and go
Yeah. Oh,
dance.
and there's also the online platform. If they want, there's a 7 day free trial. So if you go on the website, there's a link to that. They can try it out for, you can try it out for 7 days, see if the music calls to you, if you love it, and then you can be part of our amazing community.
I love it. Thank you so much. Thanks for sharing your story, your passion, and for the listeners, golden nugget, go dance.
Yes, go dance. Thank you so much for having me.